should go live in a second here. Go live in a second here. All right, here we go, brother. We going live right now. We speak. So it's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. You hear me pretty well?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Just checking. All right, everybody. This is a Thoughtful Rant. This is our first one we done via video. Let's see here. I can hear you in the background. Maybe can you turn your volume down on your end? I think maybe.
You can hear me?
I'm trying to figure out where I'm hearing it. I try to turn the volume in on my end. It might be my end. Hold on. Give me a second.
Yeah, I think it's your end. It's kind of quiet over here.
Okay, cool. All right, let me figure this out. Everybody bear with us. First time doing it on video. I'm trying to figure out where I'm hearing it. I try to turn the volume in on my end. It might be my end.
I'll show them some cars while you're figuring that out.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, definitely do that. Yeah, go ahead and talk. They can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we got the McLaren over here, the showroom car, Jekyll and Hyde. That's the business that we currently own. And you can see the Jekyll and Hyde theme. Got the chrome on the right side. Got the design on the left side. Yeah. This is actually printed on the chrome, which is really dope. They said we couldn't do it. They said you couldn't print on chrome. So we took this whole chrome piece and ran it through a printer. Right?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
All right, I think we're working now. I don't hear a second one in the background, so I think we're on game now. So with that said, you got my man William Agnew showing off his new business. What's the name of the business, brother? Just throw it out there. This
is Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde's car wraps, right? Custom car wraps. So we do more than car wraps. So we do lift kits, we do paint correction, we do ceramic coating, we do paint protection film, we do wheels. So
wow. Wheels
we do it all.
Wheels.
Wheels. Yeah, we got the wheels over here on the wall. So
I can dig it.
Yeah,
no doubt. Well, I love it, man. I wanted to hit you up real quick for this thoughtful rant, which you've been on this thing before. There's no rhyme or reason to it or whatever. But the one we keep out the very first one, because you were on the first thoughtful rant, it was based on you always dropping these seeds on Facebook. And I saw a couple when you dropped yesterday. I hit you up today, and you dropped another one today. And I was like, man, let's dig into the stuff you pointing out, because you always have some insight that I think people can use. That's why, in a sense, call them thoughtful rants. You know, no 100%. Rhyme or reason. We just gonna go hard with it. And so what I wanted to do is share the one you put up yesterday and kind of dig into your thoughts into it. And then as I hear it, maybe get some of my thoughts, and then we'll move into the one you put up today on Facebook. So for anybody out there, if you're listening now, go follow William Agnew on Facebook, because the gem you're about to hear, this brother is always dropping them. Let me pull it back up. I had it pulled up. I'm still learning how to maneuver on the computer here. Here we go. All right. So the first one actually was you talking about a quote that came from Steve Jobs. Yeah. I wanted to share the quote and then what you said about it, and we'll go a little deeper with it. So Steve Jobs, or Jobs, is that how you say it? It's Jobs, right? Not Joe.
Yeah, Steve Jobs. Yeah, right, Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs says the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. And then what you said about it in sharing that quote was, never forget, the only way to defeat the storyteller is to teach the children it is indeed a story.
Sure.
Not participating in vilifying those beings falsely leveraged within the story. Brother, that hit very hard with me. But versus me telling you what I gathered from it, I want you to further explain what I think I see. I think I know exactly where you're going, but I want to hear from the horse's mouth, man. So again, I'm gonna say it one more time. Never forget, the only way to defeat the storyteller is to teach the children it is indeed a story, not participating in vilifying those beings falsely leveraged within the story. Yeah, what did you mean, brother? I can hear that guy in the background, so you might have gotten close to him again, just so you know.
Yeah. Let me go to a different spot.
All right, no
well, you know what? It's funny because I kind of told you about this before, and when we were talking earlier, and I got this for the reason that I'm on 30-day suspension with Facebook, and so the story goes into that. And it's mainly because this guy, I'll tell you where it came from, where the thought derived from. And then when I saw the Steve Jobs joint, I was like, that's it right there. That's it. That's why I posted it. And then that's why I added the commentary to it with the story, and how the story is the most powerful thing. And what it was this guy I went to high school with, right? And I was on his post, and he had reposted a video of, and it was clipped together, but it was black people attacking white people. And when I say attacking, I mean like hitting them in the face, like boom, boom, and then it was just one after the other, or just kicking them, or just beating them. And then his narrative, or what he was trying to explain, was that the media has a different, is not doing the right thing with only showing one side. They're being one-sided in the story, right? And so, but for me, I kind of call him an idiot. I was like, bro, you an idiot. You're a straight up idiot, stupid. What you trying to do? Because as you could see in the post, people didn't even connect with the idea that he was trying to say about the media. They were only sensitized to what they were seeing, which was the violence of black people attacking white people. And so every post you saw under that, right, was catered to that.
Makes sense.
Right. And I was like, you idiot. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? You're not even, your point is you're doing the same thing that you're complaining about.
Worse though. Because with less sophistication is your point.
Exactly. And he didn't understand that. So this is why I got suspended, because I said we could do this all day. So I sent the pictures of the black folks being hung with white people standing around, right? And I said we could do this all day. What does that mean to you, right? And what does that say to you? Are all white people, right? Yeah. What are you getting from this, right? And so when I saw the quote from Steve Jobs, it made me realize, it took me back to that experience, because I was like, that's a story. The clip that he posted was a story, right? And it was a story that, and it was leveraging, right? It was leveraging us, right?
Absolutely.
In the way that we were being perceived, and the power was with the person who actually created it and then shared it. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
So
I'm following 100%.
So the power is, so what people need to understand by that post, what I was getting at is the storyteller, or the story that you're witnessing, is just that. It's a story, right?
Exactly.
And many times that story is used to leverage in any kind of way, good, bad, whatever it is. One thing, Montoya, it reminded me of you a lot too, because this is what I know you connect with, which is why when you liked the post, I wasn't surprised, because you're always trying to, and doing very well at it, right? But you're always trying to clear the narrative by saying, look, don't buy into the negative so much, because it's a story. Correct. And you know what we do is we pick the story up and we run with the story, right? All the time. Without really understanding how that story is leveraging the participant, or the people who haven't even chosen to participate in the story sometimes. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I understand 100%.
So
this is why I love it, man, because the work of mental dialogue, and I'm gonna say, to a degree, it's not even fair to say that's what we do. It's what humans do.
It's human nature.
Yes, and that's why you had such a problem with what the guy did, right?
Yes,
and whatever.
It is human nature, for sure.
And then what happens is, and I love it, and then it resonates. Obviously, Steve Jobs has a history, and we know Steve Jobs or whatever. And so I love it that it was his quote. I never heard this quote or whatever from him, right? And so it makes so much sense, because he's using the quote to a degree to show how the storyteller can be positive.
Yes.
And then you're saying this guy is being the storyteller in the worst way. And like you said, the two of us could do this all day. And then the reality, based on our real life experience, you understand that there are some powerful narratives that have unfortunately affected our community in a way. And the truth is, nobody needs to believe the story in that situation, but the power lies in the hands of the person who wrote the original narrative. So like you said, that's why this resonated with me, because our dialogue in mental dialogue is to weed through what's narrative and what's real.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times, if you can lose sight of the narrative that's been handed to you by the storyteller, then you can make better decisions. But quite often we're being emotionally aroused by the puppet master who's telling the story.
Exactly. And we have to understand that. And then that goes into what the only way to defeat the puppet master, right? There's only one way to defeat the puppet master, and that is to inform the child.
Tell the child that it is a story.
It is a story. And what do we do with stories? That's the key. So now the child has the capacity and the ability to be objective. Differentiate, right? I do understand this is a story. I do understand there are some truths. There are some lies. I have to use, my,
critical
whatever.
thinking.
Yeah, my critical thinking to differentiate and critically think and understand and be smart about what the conclusion I come to is. And so when I see a grown man at 50 years old who I went to school with using a story that is literally one after the other clips of violence, right?
And a picture.
Yeah.
And watching the masses buy into the story that he painted.
And not correcting his point of view, because his point of view was the media is pushing a narrative that is not equal and just. Because what he's saying is they're showing that we're victims, but they're not showing our struggle. And that's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's of course. That's, I mean, like you said, it's actually whack and simplified. And here it is. Now, for anybody listening, or the example you gave, if you don't understand context,
right,
they'll think you're saying that's what you're upset because he's showing, that he's a white guy.
Right.
Well, they'll simplify to that.
Right.
The context is that you're really addressing, and why you chose this quote is just the misuse of storytelling.
Misuse of story.
And how detrimental it can be for anybody, on quote unquote, if you even want to say either side, which is really the bullshit, because at the end of the day, the goal should be not to have sides to a degree.
Right.
And once we become aware of the storyteller, now we can recognize the fact that's why we have sides. It's because of the goddamn storyteller.
It's the storyteller. Exactly.
Like,
it is.
It would be so unnecessary to even be doing that.
Yes.
Because to a degree, he's recognizing that the media is putting a slant. I'll give him that much credit. But to turn around and do the same thing is not a full recognition of what's being done to you. So if you fall into the media's trap,
to complain,
you're really falling into the trap.
Yeah, to complain about what you turn around and actually do is it's idiot. I called him. I said, you're an idiot, bro. You're a 100% stupid ass idiot. I didn't hold back. I was like, just that. I just was very frank.
I respect it, because what happens is he'll, because what happens is individually he'll just feel the attack without understanding that the attack is right now. What you just did created the exact divisiveness that you just railed against. So therefore, if you can't understand that, if I try to dialogue with you and you can't understand that, then you're being ignorant, because you're adding to fire. And it's the last thing that we need currently, as we're trying to navigate and figure out an America where clearly the last few years have been nothing but divisive.
And so are we going to continue to feed into that narrative by using the same tactics? That's just stupid. It's ridiculous.
I respect it.
And so, that's what I
understand that moment. And let me take it a little deeper, because when I read it, because obviously I didn't know the backstory to what made you do it, right?
Okay.
So here's, again, we're on the same page, but what popped in my mind was just a couple of weeks ago, we did a show on critical race theory, right?
Right.
And so what popped in my mind as I watched that is literally this quote, and what you said about the quote is literally what the real fight is. And what I was saying on that show, I was fortunate enough to have Shelly Winters, and we having a dialogue, and Latrice Ross, we were all having a dialogue about it. And the unfortunate part is even that term, critical race theories, how it's being misused by both political parties, because they've painted a narrative around what it is versus what it really is. Right. So, and so this is why your comment becomes imperative.
You're right.
to the masses, not even the children, to just us as grown people. Unfortunately, no surprise, the misuse by both political parties has people on a side. The unfortunate part is you're on a side and most people don't even know what it is.
Exactly.
Because we're unaware that it's a story.
It's a story.
Like I'll give you now, is what's popping in my head is I had a similar thing where I didn't, I was on Facebook and it's not somebody I knew. So I didn't go at them directly like you ended up with your friend in high school.
Yeah.
Where we were having a dialogue and I ended up sharing, for example, with the critical race theory, the guy was railing against it because he was like, he doesn't want this taught in school. And I says the sad part, we had the show. So I posted, I said, the sad part is there is no side pushing for it to be taught in schools.
Right.
So this is his first time hearing that perspective. I'm being pretty political, when again, just doing how I do. I don't. Or whatever. And so he was like, no, it is being pushed or whatever. And I says, well, no, the funny thing is, and this is literally happening. I don't even know if you heard this, but in the state of Texas, they actually were pushing a bill through. And they were taking out the writings of MLK, the writings of Frederick Douglass, the writings of Susan B. Anthony, taking out the entire Native American history. This is a bill was on the floor of the legislation in the state of Texas, right?
Yeah.
So I share that, and the guy, he doesn't know me. So his next thing is, you're passing on lies. This is not true. And I'm like, this guy clearly don't know me because I don't do that on, what I'm saying, on, how, I like to present information. Yeah. So I quickly dialed up the actual video of what I was saying. And so he goes from that I was telling a lie to when I show him the video, his response is the typical response, which was, oh, that's one incident.
Yeah.
You feel me? So now it was reduced to I was lying. Yeah. So now it's one incident.
One incident. Yeah. So he's backtracking. Yeah, for sure.
And so what I was saying to him was, I was like, bro, ultimately both sides are BSing you. Yeah. Critical race theory is something that's taught on graduate level or whatever. Said, but it's being used for political means.
For sure.
For example, because I know this, Texas handled it that way. In Georgia, our governor, believe it or not, handled it a little, because now it's become a political narrative being pushed. So he handled it a little more slickly. So it's not a situation where it's pushing that type of stuff out of the curriculum. Right. But here, now I'm going a little deeper than I wanted to go about it. But just speaking of it, just to get this part clear. So the big problem with it happening in Texas, though, I learned this years ago and didn't realize this. Texas is often responsible for the books that will be bought throughout the Southeast. Right. And the reason that's done is because what happens is because Texas is such a large state, they will typically have the largest book buy to a particular brand or company that's providing or whatever. Yeah. And so what other states will do by jumping on the Texas buy, it saves all the schools' moves.
That's interesting.
It saves all money.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So what gets done in Texas will typically be all the schools will buy what they bought because it just saves them more money.
Right. Yeah.
So and it makes sense from a whatever, but it unfortunately gives Texas too much power over what our children learn.
Texas has a lot of power.
So unfortunately, if you got a legislation that says they want to take out all the writings of MLK, all the writings of Frederick Douglass, that's scary. You know what I mean? So
that's
what happens is the other states just get to buy the book. They don't have to do legislation in there. They don't have to do a legislation.
Right.
You feel me? So Texas, if they get the legislation passed, then Mississippi can just buy the book. They don't have to have an argument in their state legislation over critical race theory. They don't have to push the bill. They just buy the book.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's real slick.
Yeah. Texas sets the precedent.
Goes back to this to what your whole point. The storyteller is the most powerful person in the world.
And I think that's what we have to get to a point. And, it goes back critical thinking. It goes back education, starting early, really understanding critical thinking, because the storyteller, right, as we see and as everybody knows, with media, the way we see it, the slantedness, the division, this is not a secret to anybody. Everybody everybody can see the game that is played on the right and the left and the, how that works politically. Everybody's aware of that. But I think it's the lack of...
I'm scared that they're not.
No.
I may be wrong, but I think
I don't think they know when it's being applied.
Okay.
I think people understand it, but the emotion of whatever hot button they have, right? Which is what politics is designed to do, is to create hot buttons, just like you so eloquently said with critical race theory. Why do you think the critical race theory is a hot button? It's because they know that that's a hot button, right? That's why that was brought up. So I think most people understand the divisiveness. They can see it. They know that it's part of what the media does, the right and left, the Fox, CNN. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot not to see the people flip between the two channels. You know what I'm saying?
So I'll give you that. But here's what I mean. I don't know if this is a but, and you probably already understand this.
Right.
So what I'll say though is, you're right that people see it.
Yes.
But they're moved by the narrative to attach to one narrative or the other. So that's where I'm saying they don't see it from this standpoint. So as much as your people are seeing it and they say openly they're frustrated by it, they're buying into the narrative.
Because
so they're moved. That's why I'm saying, like, do they really know? But go ahead.
Because they're moved by the emotion of the topic is what it is. And that is the power of storytelling. That's why the art of storytelling is so dope, because through emotion, you can control people, right? And so that's what it is. When the topic is so emotional to you and it really connects to you and you can identify with it, there's common ground, right? Once you identify, like the best salesman, right? The best marketers, they understand that the first thing they need to do is to gain a common ground with an individual. If I can come in and say, hey man, you play ball, right? That's the common ground. Oh, I play ball too. Who's your favorite squad? Yeah. So now we build this trust, right? And once we get that's the emotional connection. Now, everything else is, everything else is part of the story.
You tell the story more so than the technical reasons.
And you can't even tell when I'm trying to sway you if I'm very good at it, because I'm a great salesman. So then you get caught up in the story so much, you don't even understand the psychology of what I'm trying to have you get involved in, right? And then now it's just a debate, and it's a debate that goes nowhere because people are over emotional about the story in the first place. That's the power. To go back to the essence of it, the power is the fact that it's a thing that people can connect with that causes emotion within the story that then makes them passionate about what the outcome is. And the storyteller has a lot of control over how you get to that place, right?
Right. And another part, here's a line, and then I'm going to go into the other thing you said.
Okay.
But it says not participating in vilifying. I'm sorry, I got to pull it up. Hold on one second. I want to say this exactly right, because this is very key to this before we close this part.
Right.
I just got to move my little buttons on so I can see it. All right, it says the last part of it said not participating in vilifying those being falsely leveraged within the story, and that's where we become weak as American citizens, if you will.
Sure.
As we buy the story to then point at we start othering people.
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing that the story was handed to you. And here's the best example of it all.
Yeah.
And it's right now, obviously we're having violence increase in the country, around the country.
For sure.
Which is definitely an issue. It is definitely a problem. And what happens is, part of this reason is that it's such an issue to be concerned about is most people are not aware of that we actually got down to the lowest state of violence we've ever had as a country. Like it's steadily been going down for 40 years or whatever. Right. So when it gets so low and that becomes the norm, any uptick is going to be quite noticeable. I've even seen some people, suggest that this is the worst ever. It's like, no, this is nowhere close to the 90s, but because it's been so low,
right?
Then and it's not that we shouldn't be I'm not excusing it. It's not that we shouldn't be alarmed. We should try to keep it low as it's ever been. So but again, just being relative about it. Then what happens is we start talking about vilifying people. So what happens is we start trying to figure out who the players are.
Who's the violent people.
Right.
Right.
And the reality has always been crime follows economics. It's no more simpler than that. But the narrative will tell you everything but that.
Yes. That's where It is. That's exactly what it is, bro. That's 100%. You hit it on the head. It's economics. Crime follows economic disparity 100%. I tell people that all the time. The data is there. You can see it. It's 100%. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. The numbers, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so
yes,
here it
100%.
is. Let's add to that and give people the real truth. This ain't even a narrative now, right?
Right.
So when you see that it matches up, now, if we understood that versus the narratives that we see in the media, then crime problems would now become an American problem, because that's what they've always been.
Right. Yeah.
We've racialized something that has nothing at all to do with race.
Nothing. It's not about race
at all.
And you know, you can get in trouble saying that with your own people. You know what I'm saying? Like, because of the story.
Because they bought the story.
Because they bought the story. But in reality, it has everything to do with. And when I say about race, obviously there's disparity in economics between races, right? So it is about that. But what we're saying is, it's not about race specifically in general. It's about the economics being more equal. So race is then not a differentiation.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying, and that's what I think I hear you saying, is if we solve the American problem of economics disparity, right? You know, we got billionaires shooting rockets off into space, you know, putting more CO2 out than everybody in the world combined, right? In one launch, right? And they're going to space just to say, it's almost like, it reminds me of Instagram. It's like, so when you go to space, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Right? Are we going to take a picture in space and say, hey, this is a billionaire selfie? Is that what you guys are doing? Like, so we're spending billions of dollars economically to do that, but we got these people who are dying in the street because they don't have proper health care. We don't have universal health care. We don't have, we don't have these basic necessities, and people are dying every day because they can't afford these basic necessities, but you guys are going to space. And the thing is, the psychology is crazy because we buy into that hype.
Well,
and
narrative's been running
but
for
it's
a
the
long
story.
time.
Yeah.
It's been running for a long time.
Yeah, it's the story, bro.
So we get caught up in running to the story versus the clear-cut why.
Critical thinking.
Right. So the clear-cut why actually should have us coming together versus being divided to say, all right, people are going, why is this happening? Like I was on a panel about 3 weeks ago, right?
Right.
And so they were having this dialogue about what one part of Atlanta had done, and right now you're familiar with Atlanta to a degree.
Yeah, for sure.
Called Buckhead or whatever, and there's this dialogue about whether they're going to actually separate from Atlanta, if you will. That dialogue's being had. It may happen or whatever, but a big part of that is, in a sense, the crime is a big part of the reason this is being pushed. And I found out from the dialogue I was on, like their taxes have went up like 350% over the last decade of 15 years or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But what the guy said was, it's funny that the 350% raise in taxes never made them say this. You feel me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But of course, the word crime is a narrative and it's racialized. Let's just call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so the question was kind of asked, well, does this have anything to do with race really, or just these are real concerns with crime? And I says, well, considering that, unfortunately, I says the Atlanta has been in the top 5. It was number 4 years ago when I first got here in income inequality. And I said, so when people are starting to have these questions about what are we doing and what are we doing to ourselves, you know that since I told them this, and I said, well, since the housing market in Atlanta caught up a little late on all of the, in a sense, a lot of markets have already was ahead of Atlanta as far as the price raising, right? So Atlanta was kind of behind on that. I said, well, now that it's finally caught up, y'all probably don't realize we're number 1 in the country in income inequality. Right. So there's your answer for why you got to raise in violence. Right. For sure. Point blank. For sure. It ain't who's doing it. It's the reality. We're already 4th. But to move from 4 to 1 in the last 8 years is you probably should expect that to happen again. It's not an excuse. It's let's figure this out, because this is clearly what's leading to this. But everything that's being addressed is about which new mayor is going to be the toughest on crime, and you know what I'm saying, like you went from 4th to number 1. So if your discussions ain't about how to go from 1 to back to at least number 4 and number 5, it don't matter how close the next mayor is on crime.
Exactly. And so while we're talking economics, I had made another post. I don't know if you saw this one, but I talked about how we support brokenness financially.
Well, that's where I'm about to go. I'm about to read that.
Oh, you about to go there?
About to read that quote.
Oh, okay.
So that's how good we on tune with this.
Nice thing, transition.
Brother.
Yeah, nice transition.
I'm literally about to read that quote right now.
Okay, go ahead.
That's what made me do. That's what made me do it when I saw both of them.
Yeah.
What made me do this? I almost called you yesterday. So the one you put up today, literally, you said, here it is. You said the problem is we reward brokenness in a system that doesn't. Until we flip that, basically, this is what we get. Let me say it again. Yeah. The problem is we reward brokenness in a system that doesn't. Bruh, that's powerful, dog. Go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, so what I was really saying with that one, and you got to put in, because for people who can't see it, the visual is beside brokenness. A reward. I think it's beside reward. I got a cash.
Yep, cash. A bag of money. A bag of money. Get the bag. That's perfect.
Yeah. So when I say reward, what I'm saying specifically is we reward brokenness is, again, I was like I was telling you before, I was listening to the 50 Cent book on the Audible, and you know, relating to hip hop, that's exactly what we do. Hip hop's a prime example of that, because we don't go spend unless it's broken, right? And when it's fixed, or we have that perception that it is fixed or it's no longer broken, we stop participating and spending the money for it. And that's and in listening to 50 Cent, that's where I got that from, because he was talking about that. He was talking about how, you know, when he was broken, right, and all his life was broken, he had been shot, he had been this, again, going back to the story, right? That story of his brokenness is what. But here's the thing, it's the common ground that we talk about. It's the connection. It's that common thing that we have in common that we connect with, which goes back to the financial situation, right? So if financially we have a common ground that we all struggle financially to a certain extent, where we're viewed in a certain way from media, right? Then we have that connection. So when we talk about that, that's the common ground of trust. If you get where I'm going. So that common ground of trust makes us want to buy, right, literally, into that common ground. Right. See what I'm saying? So it goes back again. It goes back to the economic struggle. So as soon as that changes, right, as soon as the economics of it changes, then what will happen is that common ground will look different.
Right.
Because now what me and Montoya have in common is that we both got our business platform and we're sharing information, and this is what success looks like. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to support him and he's going to support me. So he's going to spend that money on what he has, what he sees to be the common ground. Because when he gets to be 45, 50 years old, what 50 Cent was talking about at 25 no longer is relatable. So yeah, he's going to stop spending that money once he gets legit. But the problem is we got to go through that process. You see what I'm saying?
No, of course.
And so until we understand that the brokenness is what we buy into and we need to change that. And I don't know, the question,
same results.
Yeah, the question is, if indeed it is economic, then what do we focus on as the Black community to change it, right? If it is critical thinking, then what do we do as a Black community to change it? Whatever we need to do to change it, we have to identify what we need to do and then focus on doing that, right? So we stop feeding it and buying and spending our money to perpetuate brokenness. And not only that, people are investing in us to be broken so that we continue to spend money, right? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, yes. Of course. And then here it is. And then let's even talk about that real quick.
Right.
Because I know exactly how you mean it, and somebody hearing it might not understand.
Right.
Well, I don't know. You just want to get clear. Cut this phone off real quick. All right, cool. So what happens is when you put, like, they invest in us to do that, and some people will look at that and be like, yeah, see, that's it or whatever, but it's just a proven formula, so why not invest in it?
Right.
And so what happens is, like you said, until we can change the psychology and no longer pay for that, then you won't even have people invested in that. So to a degree, when you say, like you said, what do we do? It's why, to a degree, it's why mental dialogue exists, which you've heard me say this plenty of times before.
Right.
Because in my eyes, it's the psychology that has to be changed. Because without that, you can continue to be manipulated by things that are natural to be manipulated by. Like you said, buying into brokenness, like you say, using 50 Cent as example. Like you said, he was wise enough, because typically, the reason a lot of rappers don't become 50 Cent is because eventually either they're too old, or sometimes get successful enough to where people no longer buy their story of brokenness, because they know you've made it. They know
that happened to 50 Cent.
Exactly. Like I said, he was wise enough to sustain himself, but the average rapper, to a degree, you start, when we're young, it's, he ain't street no more, he ain't this no more. So it's limited to that. But like you're saying, just kind of walking through it on the economic level, like you said, until we flip the reward of brokenness, and so that becomes us as a community being aware that we relate to the broker story so much, and that not only that will we buy into it, one of it is relating because sometimes it is our experience to a degree. So so it's not that we're knocking that if it is your experience that you relate. The question becomes, or what we have to put a stop is the paying for it.
So the question is, when does the book Hustle Harder outsell the CD Get Rich or Die Trying?
Great perspective.
You understand what I'm saying? Because that book should do 20 million in sales, right? Versus that CD that was all about murder, kill, misogynistic, right? That went diamond. It still sells millions every year, right? And he's not even that guy anymore.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So we have to flip that. And when I mean flip, we have to invest more in that book that's going to lead us in the direction that we really need to go to, versus that CD that's going to keep us where we are or moving in the wrong direction. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, so until we can flip that, we keep buying the brokenness. And I get it.
Yeah, we definitely get it.
I get it, because it's the common ground. The struggle is the common ground.
Well, like I always say.
Yeah, you meet people where the common ground. That's where you meet people.
Because my favorite, as a philosopher, one of my favorite quotes of mine is, perpetual struggle is a hustle.
Yes, for sure.
Perpetual struggle is a hustle.
Yes,
and what we're talking about now, bro, is the combination of like how much we can no longer continue to buy into it.
Yes.
Why you see 50 Cent make a transition and write a book that says, work smarter.
Yeah, work smarter.
To work smarter is to no longer buy into that which is not gonna help you.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, what makes it harder to navigate goes back to the beginning of this dialogue, and we're almost done.
Right.
Is the narratives you have to navigate. So going back to what you said originally, if we teach our children it is indeed a story, now they can differentiate, and now it becomes teach them not to buy into the brokers.
Exactly.
Because perpetual struggle is a hustle. Perpetual struggle meaning there is no they that can hold you back once you understand it was just a damn story.
It was just a story. And here's what I see, Montoya. The more and more we move into the younger generations, and I know they said this about us, but I saw a young boy yesterday get shot, very graphically on live. You know what I'm saying? And he was on live, literally, when he got shot. You know what I'm saying? And it's on live.
Yeah, I can't watch that.
And I
won't watch that.
And that is an example of them, like these young boys. And I know they said this about us, but I'm saying it about them now because I'm 45. But these boys have bought into a narrative, a gang culture narrative. You know what I'm saying? That is just broken, man. It's broken.
Until we flip it.
Until we flip
what we get.
This is what we get.
Your words. That's how we ending this thing, bro.
All right,
love
bro.
you, King.
Hey, I love you too, King.
We out.
All right, man. Peace.
For sure. And we still on Zoom though. I just stopped the live. Oh, he might have left. Oh, it's all good.